Welcome to the NewsHouse. Today we have Katrina vanden Heuvel with us as part of the University Lecture Series. Katrina is the editor and publisher of The Nation, an online news magazine, and we've got her here to talk with us right now. So you're joining us this evening, and you're going to talk a little bit about grassroots involvement and movement. What brought you into that? What interests you?
Well, what interests me above all is journalism, and I've been editor of The Nation magazine, now thenation.com as well, for 15 years. And The Nation was founded by abolitionists, the movement of their times, committed to the ending of slavery. So I'm interested in how journalism covers movements without being boosterish, but covers movements because it gives people a sense, it seems to me, in learning about movements, what they can be part of and how they can make change, and so people don't feel apathetic or like couch potatoes, which I worry too much of our media intends to do or does by design or default.
And what do you think of the coverage of the occupying Wall Street?
Yeah, that's
what's going on right now.
You know, at first I found much of the mainstream media coverage pretty snarky, but it's changed. I think there is a sense of commitment and engagement by these young people downtown, and the spark of Occupy Wall Street in the media has also leveraged more coverage of what's been going on around this country for the last year or so. Because there have been people in motion, demonstrations and protests, to protest Wall Street's contribution to the economic crisis, to halt foreclosures. But people and unions have been protesting. So Wall Street brings new attention because people are coming out every day. What interests me too is, as you know, you had Madison, Wisconsin, which was also people coming out to the square of Madison day in, day out, occupying the State House. But of course you have the Arab awakening, and you had young people in Egypt in the squares. What interests me is that the media in this country, I think, feels more comfortable covering those international protests more than covering our own, and something in that is worth thinking hard about. Do they feel threatened? Does, you know, do journalists not know how to cover movements? Certainly the labor beat in this country really no longer exists except for one or two people at the mainstream big newspapers.
How did you get into politics? What was your defining moment?
You know, I think so much, I can't speak for you, but I think so many of us are influenced by our families. And my father has been in politics ever since college. He ran for office unsuccessfully in New York. He ran against John Lindsay in 1961. He ran against Nelson Rockefeller, Arthur, against Hogan, who was then the Attorney General. But he also worked with Bobby Kennedy very closely. He was in the Justice Department in the Kennedy administration. But he also was very close to someone who was my godfather, who helped found the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. And I respected those who worked outside the electoral system while also respecting the need for good people inside. And to me, fused with a belief that journalism can make a difference. That's what led me in many ways to belief that politics broadly defined, because I think so many in this country think of electoral politics. But I think there's a politics to everything, obviously a movement politics. But at The Nation, for better or worse, I'm the second woman editor. I brought on the first sports correspondent because I believe there's a politics of sports. We have a carnal knowledge correspondent. There's a politics to that. So all of that.
And in 2003, you received the Maggie Award with Planned Parenthood. Tell me a little bit about that.
You know, that story, I have a daughter. She's 20 now, but when she was 3, we were in Moscow. She's been to Moscow 40 times. And you know, I was hanging around the sandbox, and I started speaking to a Russian woman who had a daughter in the sandbox, and she said to me, James Dobson is a fascinating force. James Dobson is head of Focus on the Family, was a major right-wing leader, but she had a book of his about child rearing, which was like Dr. Spock for her. It led me to then report on the crusading Americans coming to Russia to fight abortion and to impose on that country their view of women's role in the society. So it was really the right to lifers hit Russia, and it was part of this crusading missionary quality that I think doesn't serve us well, but it was around women and their bodies and their reproductive rights. Russia for better or worse, has very tolerant laws about reproductive choice, so they need a much wider array of reproductive health care. And the Maggie Award was something wonderful, but what I found as a journalist, that if you root it in your lived experiences, there I am at a sandbox, and you start talking to people, it leads to stories that you wouldn't have found otherwise. That story is back again in Russia, so I may have to start anew.
Katrina, that's going to finish it up for us. Thank you, and we look forward to hearing from you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.